Call the meeting to order. Will you please call the roll?
Toohill,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Council, are there any changes to the agenda tonight? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of the August 4th, 2023 council meeting. Approval of the August 18th, 2023 payroll in the amount of $162,590.64. Acceptance of the library board minutes. Approval of total claims in the amount of $1,699,960.36. We had 4 claims above $75,000. Boomerang Corporation for step 3, $525,646.19. Southeast Iowa Small Cities and Counties. This is our health insurance premium of $76,433.63. Wix Construction for Highway 1, $375,730.31. Woodruff Construction for step 3 of $436,780.42.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion?
Just 2 things. I reviewed the bills, the claims, and they all look to be in order, so I recommend approval. And in the interest of full disclosure, there is a reimbursement check written to me for $530.34 to cover the League of Cities conference in September.
Okay, great, thank you. So we have a motion and a second, and go ahead and call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Okay, we have one public appearance tonight, Terry Baker. She's going to give us a report on the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good evening, Council. So tonight you have 2 documents in front of you. The first one I'm going to refer to is this one in the teal, which is the Destination Visioning session that we held last November. This is just a summary of that session, what was determined by the groups of individuals who were gathered. We started actually with a survey of the community, asking them different questions. For example, one of the questions was, would you invite someone, one of your friends and family, to visit you in Fairfield, why or why not? That was very interesting. And we got all kinds of things. And a lot of the tourism things, issues, pluses and minuses, are directly connected with quality of life issues for residents. So we don't have a lot of disparity there. Pretty much the same things, that reasons why they wouldn't ask someone to come here as a visitor is the same reason why they wouldn't like living here. So, and vice versa. So also the same things they loved, like convention center and art walk and those kind of things, were also why they would invite someone. So that was very interesting. We took those results and presented them to a group of individuals. This was city members. I know a couple of you were in that discussion, business owners, and a lot of the nonprofit organizations in town. And they met for a good part of a day to discuss the different issues broken down into things of livability, experience in the downtown. So this is just giving you a summary of those discussions, what came out of that. Hopefully we've been sharing this with individuals and different groups as they pursue their projects, just as sort of a basis of this is what the community's been saying, and these are some things you might want to be aware of. That's all I'm going to say about that, unless you have more questions. We got to get to the good stuff. So tonight I'm presenting to you our fiscal year 23 annual report. And I have to say, this has just been really a fun, interesting year. And overall, tourism is up slightly. There's a slow, steady rise, which is on par with what's happening across the state of Iowa. So we're not low on the totem pole, but we're also not sort of the rock stars either. So we're kind of going with the pack at this point. What is interesting to note is that we have a lot more people taking day trips as opposed to actually booking a room or spending the night. If you remember, in the past I've talked to you about our data collection that we do records anyone who spends the night, even if it's at grandma's house, as opposed to booking a room in a hotel. So anyone who would spend a night in Jefferson County is counted in that overnight total. Some of the things that are included in this report are some of our social media promotions, videos, different things we've done. We really break down our marketing into a couple different areas: earned, paid, social, and we have one other one, which I don't remember right now, but it's in there. Shared. So our social media these are the ads we actually put on Facebook and Instagram. We use this to actually attract new people to Fairfield and get new interest. And so these are targeted out of state. A lot of times we go to Madison, Minneapolis, Omaha, Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago. So we cover that entire area. Some of our ads will be more local, more regional, depending on what we're promoting, whether it's an event or if it's just in general an awareness ad about the cool vibe of Fairfield. The other thing that we started this year is working with the state on doing what looked like stories. If you're familiar with Instagram or Facebook stories, it has that feeling, except these are created through a different type of software. And then the State of Iowa Tourism Office actually features them on their website. And we were number 2 in the state of the highest number of downloads, which was really fun. And we were also recognized as providing and creating the second most videos throughout the state. So that was kind of a really fun process. And we had quite a large click-through rate as well as downloads on those. In our print promotions, you'll see we've got a couple of different things. Our brochures. So we have our Christmas guide, our restaurant guide, our biking guide. We did a little brochure for the family fun road trip, things like that we keep on hand and have available at our location, at the convention center, the Chamber of Commerce, and various places throughout town. Obviously, we don't have Christmas all year, but we like to have Christmas all year. We're just actually getting ready to launch Christmas, the new Christmas brochure, and get that out and going. We do distribute these within a 4-county radius, so we take them out and put them in different welcome centers and places around the area. For magazine ads, we did a couple of new, interesting, fun things. We worked with Food and Travel Magazine. We worked with Travel, Taste, and Tour Magazine, Midwest Living, Best of the Midwest, and Rova Magazine, which focuses on RV travel. So we featured some ads in those magazines, which have been very well received, and we're still tracking the results from that through clicks on our website. Some other things, this year we did do a reprint of our award-winning visitors guide and continue to distribute that. It is distributed through hotels, in hotel distribution centers across I-80 and at state travel centers. Some of our special promotions we did were created 2 passports that allowed people to check in at various locations and win prizes. That actually brought us a large number of people onto our email list, so we're able to continue to marketing to them. And this year we also were part of the Soul of Iowa project. Those videos will not be released until next spring, but they did all the filming in 23, so we're looking forward to that being featured throughout the state. If you remember, if you saw that promotion, this is where they bring the drones in and fly them through different places. So we had a couple locations that they wanted to feature our restaurants here, and so we flying drones at Fishback and Stevenson and the Broth Labs. So it was quite an interesting ordeal. As far as events, we do a couple of events in our office. We have Restaurant Week, which is usually early spring, and we also do Shop and Be Merry in the holiday season. This year, both of those events, we had a record number of people participating in terms of business, as well as a record number of people actually showing up for these events. And we also partnered with the WPBA, the Women's Professional Billiard Association, and the Midwest Veg Fest to help them promote their events. Really happy to say that when we worked with WPBA, we actually doubled their audience numbers this year, and were able to get people coming here from Indiana and from Omaha to participate as an audience member in those events. Probably my favorite thing that we actually did this year was our Travel Writer Fam Tour. We invited 6 travel writers to Fairfield. They spent 48 hours in the area. I gave them a very intensive, we were kind of going like, okay, we gotta go, we got something else to do. And we went around. They did say to me that I really shouldn't feed people so well. We tried out a lot of different restaurants, and as a result, they were writing a lot of content for us. One couple was actually vegan, and they wrote an entire vegan guide to Fairfield. And we've had several travel food writers that would write some articles about the best places to eat, as well as what to do in 48 hours in Fairfield. So this content is up on their blogs. They've written for magazines. Some of them write for newspapers. So things have been published in those areas. And then we're able to repurpose a lot of that content. And it gives us a lot of credibility that it's not Terry Baker standing here telling you to come to Fairfield because it's cool. It's Deb telling you, and Kelly and Dusty telling you, and these people actually talking to their audience, which usually they have a fairly large audience to communicate with. In our community relations and advocacy, we had obviously our visioning session. We also did our downtown development and tourism survey, which preceded that visioning session. We also are able this year to work with something called an event economic impact calculator. This is where we're able to take various numbers from an event in terms of how many people came, how long were they here, did they buy a ticket, that sort of thing, and we're able to put it into a calculator to actually show the economic impact of that event. This is going to be useful when these events turn around and try to get grants or that sort of thing to show that they have an impact on the community. And then we also worked a little bit with doing some downtown flower pots. This is a program that Doug Alexander has been working with us on. He loves to plant flowers, so he came to us and said, can I plant flowers for you guys? You buy the flowers. He said, I'll pot them, I'll get them all ready and put them around. And so these are some of the pots that you see in front of the shops in the downtown area. And it's really, I think it really makes a big difference in our downtown. For our e-communications and our PR, content creation is something that pretty much occupies a lot of my time. It's something that is at the core of what we do, largely through blogs and creating different various forms of content. We take that content, divide it up, it becomes social media, it becomes all kinds of other things that we're able to generate and put out to the media. We sent out 14 e-newsletters this year, and it shows you there the readership and the open rates, which we're scoring very well on our open rates for our industry. And we also shared stories, photos, and videos with Iowa media. In our partnerships and associations, we continue to maintain a lot of listings on the Travel Iowa website, so we keep events posted there, we keep businesses posted there, make sure that our community is being highlighted, and not just the community at large, but specific businesses and specific events. And we obviously do a co-op marketing partnership with Travel Iowa. We are also a member of ITIP, which has now become the regional representative to merge and communicate all the different CVBs together. And I serve on one of their resource committees. We are also a member of Destination Development Association, and I serve on several local boards. For meetings and trade shows, Fairfield has been represented at a number of different conferences and trade shows. I'm not going to highlight them all, but I will say we had a lot of fun at the Bike Expo in Des Moines in January, and that was where we presented our bike guide, and it was literally I could not come back with any of them left because people were just taking those, and basically it had QR codes that went to various bike rides around the county. So people who really love gravel rides, I worked with several of the bike riders in town, and we created these rides, and it all directs you to an app called Ride with GPS, and it maps out all the rides for you, and people just love this. To the point where the other CVBs were going, we're stealing this idea, we're doing it next year. And we were also represented at the American Bus Tour Association trade show. On the next 2 pages, you'll find the economic impact and our financials. I have to give a caveat here that the economic impact numbers here are from 2021 calendar year. And that's because that's the latest data we get from the state. So we're, probably in another month or 2, I'll get this data for 22. We'll see what happens. But 19.75 million direct visitor spending in Jefferson County, which I think is really, really admirable that we're having this much direct visitor spending. It is up from the previous year, obviously in 2020, we would expect that to happen. And some of our stats that you'll just see at a glance, we are getting a lot of eyes on what we're doing, which is really exciting. The only thing here I think that has gone down a bit has been our leads, and this is because we did not take advantage of a program that the state had this year. We had so many leads the previous year we couldn't keep up with them, so we didn't take on that program this past year. We are taking on that program this year, so hopefully we can keep up with it a little better. And you'll see some basic research at the bottom, the trips by month. Interesting to note, November, April, and June are our top months for visitation. I would not have expected that, especially even looking at previous years, but that is what we had for fiscal year 23. On our finance side, you have a general revenue total and expenditures, and you'll see how those expenditures kind of mapped out and laid out. We did have some investment in some special projects. This was the destination survey and visioning, our 365 event website, which I hope some of you have gotten a chance to look at. We also upgraded some very specific things on our website for usability and also for our SEO. Also, we invested in the hotel study along with the city, and that project was also, the blogger project was also a part of a special project. Some of the highlights on the back, these are just some like fun little things that we've already talked about, some of our promotions, but it was really fun to see Fairfield was named as one of Iowa's friendliest towns in this last, during early summer. And I think during our visiting session was where the first idea came up that, you know, we really need something that works as a community calendar. I think that's been kind of circulating around for some time. We started looking at that and talking with the person who facilitated the session, and he gave us some leads on that. We were able to contact that individual and decided to move forward with that project because there was such a need in the community, and I'm really happy to say that it launched August 1st and has been very, very well received. So with that, have any questions?
So you're saying people are logging, or getting a login, and they're posting their own events?
Yes, not as many as I want yet, but we're getting there.
Okay.
We knew that would happen in the beginning. So right now I am posting extra events, and I think probably in the fall what we're going to do is bring an intern in to kind of focus on that, make sure we get everything uploaded. But I really want to empower somebody. If you're planning an event, please log on to Fairfield 365, create your own account and put your events. This lets you update them if something changes. It lets you have control over that and that messaging, and make sure you get the dates right and all those kind of things, rather than us doing it and finding out later that we maybe clicked the wrong button somewhere. So,
Great, great. So I would encourage council members to share that too.
yeah.
You know, right? So
Awesome.
we can get it out there.
Anything else?
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The hotel study,
Yes.
any more interest from anyone? Anything
We have
kind
forward
of moving?
We
or?
have forward movement,
Okay.
which is exciting. We do have an investor group, and we do have 2 flags that are interested, maybe 3. And we are moving forward and having some meetings about that and seeing if we can bring everybody to the table and kind of start getting something concrete happening very soon.
Okay. Great. Any other questions, council? Okay. I guess
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Terry.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your work.
Thorough, thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so we will move on to resolution, action items, and ordinance. Our first action item is consideration to accept 301 to 307 West Briggs Avenue demolition as final. Melanie, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Good evening. So this is for the final acceptance of the demolition of the old DOT site. The underground work is completed. Everything is backfilled. Compaction testing has happened, and the architect Klingner and Associates is recommending accepting that project as final and moving towards releasing the retainage.
Motion to approve demolition is final.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any discussion?
Mel, what's our next step over there?
So in my project update, I actually say I would like to have public safety and transportation meet. So the staff has met with the architect regarding some options for design, and some of these options affect what was said during the referendum, and also are kind of dependent on what happens with the station. And I'll just be honest, you know, one cost savings is to decrease the number of bays, and if that means that the education trailer gets stored in the existing station, you know, that's a savings that makes the project affordable so that we can move forward. And so that's, we have some options at the staff level that we feel like that we need to bring to the committee and then ultimately the council so that we have something that we can move forward with.
Okay.
And so if council wants to make that motion now rather than in my project update to move the fire station discussion to public safety, I'm sure Katie would love that motion.
No, I was gonna suggest it should go to, property committee. It's a building.
The design and all of the public input meetings have run through public safety to date. So,
Okay.
including meeting with the architect and
Right.
helping design the original.
So I'll make the motion to refer to public safety.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Esty? Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion?
We still have the accept.
Oh.
Oh.
That's fine.
Right, right.
That was my discussion, sorry.
Jumping ahead.
Sorry,
Sorry.
yes, we had a first and a second to, yes, accept this demolition as final. So let's vote on that first. Any
Okay.
other questions on that? Okay, now you can call the roll on that one.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And now to refer it to public safety.
So now I'll make the motion to refer to public safety.
Well, we already have that. I think.
Well, you can't have two motions
Is
on
that
the floor
okay?
at the
Do I
same
need to do it again?
I can erase.
You just can't have two motions on the floor at the same time.
Okay.
We
So,
kind of had one. Yeah.
well, should we do a new one to make
You
it
need
more?
Let's do a new one.
Let's make it really official.
I'll
And
second
not get it out of
Doug's
order.
motion.
So we got Flournoy on the first and
Okay.
Esty on the second.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Good thing you have
Flournoy,
an eraser.
Yes.
Esty,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the next action item is consideration of professional services agreement with McClure Engineering, and we have Trent and Alex here, so go ahead.
Good evening, I'm Trent. I'm here to present an agreement for professional on-call services for the city. This agreement will cover professional services identified by tasks. Attached is a scope of work template that will be completed depending on the task that the city staff requests. It will identify the scope of work and compensation to complete the work. When scope can be determined, we will include a fee in scope. When it can't be determined, we'll do this on a T&M basis. And also, in your packet, you will have a 2023 hourly rate schedule. This agreement is for 1 year with up to 3 one-year extensions. Total compensation will not exceed the amount for each detailed scope without written consent. A few miscellaneous service requests are wastewater treatment plant capacity re-rate, and then some modifications to the influent channels to increase flow velocity in the headworks building. Those are have been discussed previously. Finally, this provides the city with city staff with this provides service that the city staff could use us for without necessarily going through council for small projects.
What's-
Obviously, if it's the scopes past the purchasing authority, they have to still go in front of council.
So is that the impetus then for this, is that you wouldn't, like, smaller projects wouldn't have to come before council? Or,
Correct.
Correct.
Smaller projects wouldn't have to come in front of council.
Okay.
That's up to, I think, 15,000, is that right? Either way, we'll provide a scope with a fee if,
No, go ahead.
we'll provide a scope with a fee if that can be determined. If not, it'll be T&M based on the hourly rate schedule.
And I was just going to add in, we have this type of agreement with several of our consultants. And as he mentioned, this is particularly to help us with the re-rate and everything that's going on with the wastewater treatment plant since the upgrade. But again, we do have similar agreements with several of our consultants.
You said re-rate?
Yes.
What is that?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, it's a capacity re-rate. The wastewater treatment plant that was built and started up a few years ago it's been classified as a Class 4 plant. We're confident that it aligns with the city's goals to go to DNR and ask for a re-rate back to a Class 3, which you are currently. It helps with some operational costs.
A lot of
A
operational.
lot of operational costs.
You're talking
Yeah.
about a rating given to us by the DNR.
Correct. It's based on the city's flows and loadings at the
Does this
wastewater.
have to do with the overflow?
It's based off of the size of the plant.
Mhm.
So we, made a large plant to handle the flows that were expected and for future growth, but we're not there yet. So there's no reason to have a larger rate than what's necessary until we as a city reach that point. But until then, we would really like to remain a 3. 4 requires 24-hour staffing. And that's a huge
That's my
change.
question. What's the difference between a 3 and a 4? Is more staffing and
More
some
staffing,
more
more
cost?
testing, significant.
We don't need
cost.
those people, so we don't want to have a 4 rating. Okay.
And how are we managing this budget-wise? Did we kind of already have this considered in this budget year?
Well, them helping this is going to be cheaper than going to a 4. So, no, we do not have it in the budget, but we feel like it's necessary. Otherwise, next year's budget's going to be way worse. We do have a positive balance though in wastewater.
Yes.
Yeah. To be able to cover this. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I make the motion to approve the professional services agreement with McClure Engineering.
And I will second.
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Ham. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Okay, next is a resolution to authorize the placement of a street light. This is at Highway 1 on Libertyville Road.
The only thing I have to add is the one light that they thought they could reuse was not there when they went to reuse it. So we need a motion to place an additional light. I believe it's already been placed, but Alliant would like the paperwork.
We
Motion.
own this light.
Yes, we do.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Next is an ordinance. It's a first reading for a speed limit amendment. This again is on Highway 1 South. I will open the public hearing. Does anyone want to speak to that? I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. So I'll close the public hearing. And Mel, you want to say something about this particular?
Yes, and so this is a reminder for the council, mainly for the public though, because there's been a lot of talk about why a roundabout, not a traffic light, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, as I've said multiple times, that there is a lot of psychology behind driving, which terrifies an engineer, but there are physical things that we can put in the roadway or adjacent to the roadway, such as trees, or you can have islands, or in this case, a roundabout that physically cause people to slow down. The roundabout or the islands physically cause them to slow down, but things such as trees, the curb and gutter psychologically help people slow down. So one of the reasons behind this project and going with a roundabout was to lower the speed limit on this side of town. And for the council that's been on here for a while knows that we've tried to decrease the speed limit on Highway 1 multiple times. And the DOT sets their speed limits based off of how fast people actually drive. And, with the new roundabout being constructed, DOT is willing to have a starting point, which is shown here, that does have the speeds lowered. So starting from town coming outwards, the 35 would remain, Jason, can you scroll up just a little bit? So yes, the 35 starts around the bend in South Main, around the 600 block of South Main, and then will continue all the way down until the other side of the roundabout near the JCHC Drive. The roundabout, I'm not 100% sure of the design speed of the roundabout, but the posted speed is 15 miles per hour. So
Go faster.
I'm not going to speak to how fast you can go, but so DOT is willing to start with that posted speed limit of 35 all through that corridor. And then going to 45 from the exit ramps down to 227th. And then, and if you remember several years ago when we did the 227th paving, we also added a turning lane in there. Again, another mechanism to help slow that traffic down as they're coming into this side of town. So I worked with the DOT in order to come up with these locations and this starting point. It'll likely be readjusted or at least reanalyzed in a few years after the project's done and they have a chance to look at the data. But this is where we would like to start.
Mel, are you going to have a separate ordinance about the speed limit around the roundabout being 15?
No, DOT didn't feel that was necessary, but I can check with them. On the next reading, they would like us to go from the second to the third, so I will double check with them though on that to make sure that we don't need to have a 15 miles an hour right there.
My thinking is if you don't, it's going to be a challenge corner, and people are going to try to do it at 35 with the allowable 5 to 7 difference, and you're going to have people going around the roundabout at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is posted at 50.
It's posted on the roundabout, 15.
Well, that's the thing. We just need an
Yeah.
ordinance that says that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I will check with DOT how they want to handle it, whether they do an intersection at a different speed or not. So I'll talk with DOT on how they want to handle it.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So this ordinance is just authorizing putting up the speed limit signs.
Authorizing the DOT to put up the speed limit signs at these locations,
So
yes.
make the motion to move the ordinance from the first to second reading.
Second?
Okay, moved by Flournoy, second by Anderson. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Next is an ordinance, this is an amendment to the fence ordinance that we previously passed last month, I believe. So, as you know, there was some discussion, and it went back to committee, and these are your new changes. Melanie, do you mind talking about a couple of those new changes?
Yeah, I can talk about it too,
Oh, yeah.
and I
Okay.
discussed it with
Thank you.
Paul because he knew he wasn't going to be here tonight. So this is Melanie. Why don't you come up anyway? No, I'm just kidding. This is the amendment that we had discussed when we had our property committee meeting. I believe it was at the end of July, and we had some constituents present at the time. And this was the compromise that we came up with, basically allowing for temporary fencing in front yards that would only be allowed for a certain period of time, a maximum of 150 days. It was on the 31st of July when we met and we had that conversation. We discussed it at our previous council meeting. I believe that this meets everyone's requirements, according to the constituents who were present. So I would move that we would move this from the first to the second reading.
Second.
Okay, moved by Esti, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
By the way, on these readings, we don't have anybody in the audience, so I didn't open a public hearing. The next ordinance, consideration of property maintenance code extension. So again, this is the first reading.
Do you want to open the public hearing or no?
Oh, we have somebody here now.
Yes, I can open the public hearing now that we have somebody in the chambers. Does anybody want to speak to this property maintenance code? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Go ahead.
Okay. So I will attempt to present this coming from the property committee. So what we're presenting tonight is an update to the city code regarding the property maintenance code. The property maintenance code is currently being used for the rental code, and it's a basic life safety code. And I'm going to read from the introduction of the code. It says, this code is intended to establish provisions that adequately protect public health, safety, and welfare that neither unnecessarily increase construction costs nor give preferential treatment to particular types or classes of materials, products, or methods of construction. So the ordinance that you have in front of you is two parts. The first is, so what's attached to the agenda is the ordinance form, but what I put in front of you is a red line version showing what all is being added and changed. So there's two parts to this, two main parts. The first is versions if anyone else wants to look through them. We feel like they're reasonable updates, things such as requiring carbon monoxide detectors. And then there are updates related to technology, and one of them that we've run into is ventilation of stoves, that more current gas stoves don't require the ventilation that older gas stoves require. And the newer code takes that into account. The second part of the ordinance applies the property maintenance code to all buildings. We, as staff, and I think the property committee, feels like this is needed to meet your goals as part of the comprehensive plan to improve the housing stock, as well as the goals that we feel like we've heard from most of the council members to clean up the community. And I think you've all given us a call regarding a property or two that we've said, we can't do anything about that, it's not a rental. And we feel like this is definitely justified in the sense that if you look at the housing study, there are 33 homes that are in very poor condition, 104 that are in poor condition, and 429 that are below normal. And so the thought process is our current code, if it's not a rental, we really only have the abandoned structure or dangerous structure code in order to enforce any improvements. And at that point, the structure is pretty much gone. There's nothing, it's beyond the point of repair. If we feel like having a property maintenance code to start working on some of these properties, that perhaps some of them can be saved or moved into the hands of an entity that could repair the property before it gets to the point that it's beyond that point of no repair. Which is why we're asking for this to apply to all buildings, not just rentals. And I can go over the code, the changes in detail, but the biggest thing I want to point out about applying this to all structures is the proposed 1709-050, which is the inspections. And we absolutely do not intend to do any kind of annual, biannual, every 4-year inspection of individually owned homes, businesses, or industries. We intend to use this as an exterior inspection process unless there is a health concern that we have. To let you know of some of our process that we go through. I mean, we get a lot of complaints, but we weren't born yesterday and we know how to kind of sort through those complaints. One of the things that we take into account is we get complaints from other governing agencies, whether it might be DHS, parole officers, even our own police officers, letting us know about conditions that people live in. We're gonna listen to those complaints at a very high level, believable level. We're also, occasionally we'll get calls from contractors saying that I went into this building to do a quote. And we're gonna ask some questions, find out, did they not get the job? And that's why they're calling us in order to try and get one up on that business that they didn't get the job from. So we do ask a lot of questions from the people that we do get complaints from when it's not coming from another governing agency. When it's a citizen complaint, again, we ask questions, trying to figure out, is it someone who's getting evicted? And again, just wanting to file every complaint that's possible. We do take the complaints seriously, but we do make sure that we ask the questions. And so again, on the inspection on the owner-occupied properties, we're not looking to do any sort of registration, annual inspection. It would be for the purpose of health and safety. If we see something from the exterior that makes us feel that there is a need for an interior inspection, we would obviously first ask for permission. If we don't get the permission, we would go through the court system in order to try and get in that property to see the conditions. And so other than that, there is, a lot of it is related to updating the code. And anything else I missed? Covered most of it? Property committee? Wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, if I could just support what you were just saying regarding the complaints, because this is just inspections for interior premises, because we already have the ability to inspect exterior premises. But if there are complaints from like law enforcement or DHHS because they've been in there, and there are safety concerns too, that will allow the city to potentially go in there and provide owners with potential opportunities, like I know that we have discussed with Josh at FIDA, grant opportunities for homeowners who are having difficulty maintaining their property. So that's another, that is another avenue which we can provide some additional information for homeowners.
And the example we point out is one of the properties that the city recently took ownership within the last 6 months. That was an owner-occupied home. He didn't need to allow us in, and he did. And realized the conditions that he was living in, and through the different programs that we were able to get him in another location and get him out of horrible, for lack of a better term, living conditions. And we hope that many more people that we can help people get out of those situations that are owner occupied, that maybe need something like this in order to get out from under the weight of the building that they're on. No pun intended on that.
Mm-hmm. So you see this primarily being used primarily for residential,
Right.
is what I hear you say.
Right.
Correct?
Mhm.
Not that it couldn't be used for a building somewhere else.
A commercial or
Commercial
industrial. Right.
But it also would affect new construction, right?
It would, but again, it's mainly, first of all, we don't have a mechanism really for inspecting new construction. But most of it, with it being a health and safety, it's things such as having a GFI outlet, having a light in every room. So it's not gonna be something to a level that we would need to have an electrical inspector in there. We're not looking at the wiring, I guess beyond making sure that it's not raw wires, but it's very basic
Okay,
code.
I just got a couple questions. What's the International Code Council?
So I do not know how it's made up or anything like that. I do know the building codes, the electric code, the fire code, most of the codes that if we would implement a full building code also come from this same council.
Also,
Probably
just-
internet.
That was
Sorry,
mentioned
go ahead, Judy.
when we were having the discussions earlier about having some type of other code here in Fairfield. It was brought up about this.
Right.
And so it's a higher standard, but it was pretty well shot down here
Right.
locally.
Yeah, I know
So I
people are-
would say if you really want to know the ins and outs of it, it would be good
Yeah.
if we all studied and found out all the fullness of the difference between what is currently in place. I do know that there is a lot in Iowa now that has been pursuing this international code.
Well,
But
we
I
already
don't know
had
all that.
adopted the International Property Maintenance Code. We just had an older edition. It was like the 1998 version, correct?
But we only had it for rentals.
But we only had it for rentals, but it was
Right.
the same
Yes.
property maintenance code created by the same International Code Council.
Right.
We're just updating it, and then we're also going to be applying.
So this ordinance doesn't automatically upgrade the code if this body changes the code, it's not automatically upgraded into our code.
Correct.
Correct.
Because this is dated 21, if they do a revision in 25, we would have to re-adopt.
Right, because there are certain things that were struck from the code, and there were things that were added, such as who is the code enforcement officer, who appoints them.
Them to do a lot more inspections from outside.
No,
So-
this would not.
The international doesn't?
No,
Actually, it does.
doesn't.
I
I thought it
thought
did,
that was
too.
the point of their discussion and why they were refusing it, because those inspections.
Probably important to note.
In other words, much more stringent, the international one.
And we don't allow the inspections to be provided for the purpose of buyer-seller transactions.
Right.
Something important to note too.
Yeah, that it's not intended to replace a detailed home inspection for mold and that level.
So again, just for clarification for the public, this is not adopting an international
Right.
building
Right.
code.
Right, we were just
This is the property
discussing-
maintenance code, which is different.
Right.
And we do have copies of the property maintenance code for council members. If you don't have one already, we can make you copies of the 1998 if you want to painstakingly review the two of them. And then we do have some copies then here for the public of anyone who would want to look through that as well.
Okay, so,
Well, I move that we move this from the first to the second reading.
did I do a public hearing for this
Yes.
one?
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
Talked so long, I can't remember. Okay, so now we have a motion from Esty
I'll second that motion.
and second by Flournoy. Any other questions? Not, please call the roll.
Esti.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Great. Ordinance 1229, this is the second reading. Consideration of amendment of the ATV, UTV regulations. And as I recall, this is just matching state code,
County.
state and county. Okay. And basically makes it much simpler. So I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to talk about that? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And
Second.
moved by Anderson, second by Flournoy. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
This is ordinance 1227. This is the third and final reading. Consideration of amendment to electric vehicle rates. Again, this is third and final reading. Anybody, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody want to speak to that? Not, I'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 1227.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Flournoy,
Second.
second by Rasmussen. Any discussion?
Flournoy.
Let's call the roll.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Rasmussen.
Yes.
Ham.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And we have the third and final reading for ordinance 1228, consideration of ordinance prohibiting engine brake use. I'll open a public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to that? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and take a motion.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1228.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Rasmussen. Any discussion?
Quick question. Melanie, are you going to take lead on placement of the signs, or do we need to meet again as a committee for that?
Coordinated.
Perfect.
They're ordered anyway.
They're ordered? Okay, thanks.
Signs are ordered. Great, thank you. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Rasmussen?
Yes.
Flournoy?
Yes.
Esti?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Toohill?
Yes.
Under the mayor's report, I do have one board appointment for the library, Ann Gookin, to replace Kimberly Broz. Ann is a retired teacher, grew up in this community. I think she'll be a great board member. She said she loves to read. And so I take a motion to approve Ann.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Anderson, second by Toohill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. And then I have one other thing. I'll just mention that probably next meeting, we're gonna have some reappointments on some different boards that we'll just bring several of them together. I wanted to publicly thank several people here. The chief had put out a media notification on August 25th and a release, and you know, anytime we have a chance to say a double thank you or a triple to our emergency people, our police, that, you know, have impacted people's lives, it's just a great opportunity. So there was an incident in July where our communication specialists, including Shannon Pester and Kate Waller, gave pre-arrival life-saving instructions to the 911 caller. And then we had our deputy, Tyler Risedam, and a deputy from the county, Nelson Torres Rodriguez, which also he was one of our officers at one point, and Sergeant William Regal, all arrived on the scene before medical care ambulance had gotten there, and they did CPR, and they did a external defibrillator, saving this patient's life. So it's pretty impactful for that family. And so again, a big thank you to our police department and everybody involved in this situation, including the other first responders, care ambulance, and our staff at Jefferson County Health Center. And just, again, thank you. It's just a fantastic thing. You know, we have great people working in this community for our emergency services, and thank you. So, thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Alrighty, city attorney report.
Yes, couple things. Weston and I have been in nuisance case involvement in a house out behind Hy-Vee. The lot finally is completely cleared. I had a contact from the court today and told them that we require nothing further from the court. We were thinking we might have to get a writ, but the family that cleared the building has cleared the rest of the things at the lot. I think you probably could actually take a lawnmower to the lawn down there now. Secondly, last Tuesday, Tom Toohill and I were at a ambulance board meeting. Following that meeting, the three lawyers for the 28E communicated with a lawyer for care ambulance. And we had a fairly lengthy discussion. Care ambulance agreed that they would provide us their documentation so that we could review it. And the intent was that it was by the end of last week. That didn't happen, but we did get documentation from hospital emergency room and from our dispatch at the law center that should match off with what CARE said they would be providing us. And Vanessa Willman, who is the attorney for the hospital in the 28E, sent Steve Ort, the attorney for the CARE service provider, a request for specific things which should parallel what we've just received ourselves from our side of the table. The idea was we'd go through those things. By October 1st, we will have approximately $90,000 in a kitty from the 3 members of the 28E. If we have a chance to see their position and what they say they're entitled to be reimbursed for under our mediated agreement from last January, and compare it to what we have from our 2 sources of information for the same questioned service. Our hope was we get that all sorted out so that we can have a transition at the end of September without still arguing about a $90,000 kitty. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We didn't get anything last Friday. I thought we might get a call from Mr. Ort, the attorney for CARE, today explaining that they need another day or something like that. But I'm afraid we may be still talking about this at our next meeting. We have another meeting scheduled, I believe, next month, don't we, Tom?
Yeah, the first one, I think we canceled. The second one near the end of the month, I think we.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the idea is that if we can get this
The 19th, there's one.
to a point of comparatives, we'll have our 28E rep and the other county and the hospital reps, along with the lawyers and the head of CARE Ambulance and their attorney, at a table and try to figure out if there are things that can be agreed. And we'll probably be coming back to you at the first meeting in September with a suggested payout to them. I mean, if they say they want it all, we know from what I've seen already as far as the things from our side that several days they didn't have 2 ambulances on service. We had other service providers sometimes. Those are things that shouldn't entitle them to full pay for that month of service. I'm anxious to hear what their explanations are going to be as to why they would expect to be fully paid. But we don't know the whole story yet, and there may be some things holding them up as far as what their data was. Their attorney was relatively apologetic about saying, oh, well, we weren't sure exactly what you wanted beyond what we thought we were already giving you. Well, they used to come to our meetings and give us details on everything from their personnel to what services were. The last few months, that's not been happening. And so I guess we'll see where we are by the next council meeting. I'm going to keep Tom informed if we get anything back and forth between their attorney and our group of attorneys that would get us to a table meeting. Anything else you can think about, Tom?
Yes, when they were coming to the meetings, they were bluntly honest. I mean, they were admitting they weren't doing transfers and
Yeah.
you know, things that was expected probably on our side of it. So, we haven't heard anything since then. So it's been probably 2 months.
Anyway, I guess we'll see. Okay.
Alrighty, so we will move on to committee and board reports, economic development.
Economic Development met tonight at 5:30. Present were myself, Katie Anderson, John Brown, Rebecca Loper, Doug Reinert, and Martin Brett. And we had one item on the agenda, and it was amending the development agreement with Vastu Partners LLC from 2016, also known as a 5.0, and the development agreement from 2021, known as a 5.5, pertaining to Phase 5 and Phase 6 of North Campus Village. And what this pertains to is basically transferring. Well, a motion. I'll read the motion. A motion was made by Anderson to agree to amend the 2016 5.5 development agreement from 1.5 to 2.2 million, and also the 2021 development agreement also known as 5.5, from 2.4 to 1.7 million. So we were transferring 700,000 basically from one development agreement to the other. There's no advantage or money gained or lost on either side of it. And this would require 2 agreement amendments as well as an agreement to Phase 5 Urban Renewal Plan, with the city agreeing to make this change. And then Mr. Brett also agreed to pay any legal fees which we'd incur by changing these. And I again point out that no additional profit will be realized by VAS2 partners in proceeding with these changes. It's just it's more of a timing thing than anything else. So he's allowed to proceed with the projects.
So is that a motion to?
So we made a motion to present it, carried 2 to 0. But yes, that's a motion. Then I can read it again. The motion is to agree to amend the 2016, also known as 5.0, development agreement from 1.5 to 2.2 million, and also the 2021, also known as 5.5 development agreement from 2.4 to 1.7 million, which would require 2 agreement amendments as well as an agreement to Phase 5 Urban Renewal Plan, with the city agreeing to make this change.
And Martin paying legal fees.
And Martin will be paying the legal fees, yes.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, moved by Toohill, second by Flournoy.
This is all based on an analysis by the Ehlers Public Finance law firm also, which
Yes.
was discussed at the meeting.
Okay,
So I'm sorry, just, so the reasoning behind it is, could you state that one more time?
There was actually a date that got, right, Martin? A date was
Martin can
missed.
help explain it, but yes.
And a request was made for the change right as we lost Aaron. And so,
I see.
yeah, so, is that correct?
Okay.
We missed the date on one of the contracts.
Well, it was some paperwork was filed ahead of time that started the clock ticking on the value that was part of the tax increment way way too late. And what we did is, luckily these 2 areas are actually part of the same urban renewal zone. So we have a lot of flexibility here. And what we're doing is we're taking, we're lowering one agreement, raising the other one by the same amount, so that we can, so that some value that was lost, some tax increment value that was lost because of some paperwork that wasn't filed at the right time. It was an innocent mistake. The city actually made the same mistake about 5 years ago, and we solved that problem with almost this same type of change. Yeah, and anyway, this it takes a while to really get through the to the nuts and bolts of it, but really what it does is a whole bunch of tax increment was lost because of the way the paperwork was filed ahead of time, and this allows us to recapture what the city and I had intended. So I don't get any more money, the city doesn't pay out any more money, and nobody's losing anything. It just costs legal fees, and I'm paying those.
Thanks.
Okay.
great, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other discussion points or questions? No, please call the roll.
Toohill,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Rasmussen,
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to our administrator department reports. City engineer, do you want to do your project report?
There's nothing I could say that would be more interesting than what you guys just did, so.
I believe that.
I guess, has everyone driven through the roundabouts? My only question. It opened on
Yes.
Friday.
Many.
It's very
What?
smooth.
Up north, I've driven through many.
But have you driven through ours?
Not ours yet.
Okay, all right. I will say in the first 5 minutes, low boy full of round hay bales and a pull behind RV and a Lowe's truck all went through perfectly fine. Not that we were doubting the design, but no signs were hit and no one rolled over. So that was a really good 5 minutes. Doug and I sat and watched them open it up.
I
And,
saw early
seriously
Sunday
stopped
morning
it.
the Madsen horses were going through it with a trailer.
Okay.
And holding up about 10 cars behind them on a Sunday morning, but they all made it through just fine. So,
There we go.
yes.
That works. And then the other thing, along that lines, just wanted to talk about the rest of the project. A lot of questions on that. So the overall project, we're still looking at the end of the year for that to be completed. Still keeping our fingers crossed that we'll have this done before winter comes. Right now they're working on the middle stages, which is stages 2 and 5, which they hope to start pouring that this week, starting at the well, moving north towards Miller Realty. And that'll be a several-week process, but that will be a large chunk of it that's paved. It'll really open up access for the well once that's done. And then it'll leave basically the portion between the well and the roundabout, and then Miller and Fillmore. So much smaller, reasonable portions that hopefully will go very quick after that. So unless there's any questions, that was the only thing I was going to mention. And unless you guys want to talk about our projects.
For here.
Got anything to update?
There's a lot of pipe.
A lot of pipe laying out there. If you
Saw
haven't seen
that.
all of the blue pipe is for the sewer main.
Yeah.
So for the,
Yeah, please come to the microphone.
sure. For the step 3 project updates, the lift station structure, the concrete is in kind of the final stages where they're tying rebar for the footing, the building, they'll pour the footings and then the slab on grade. The rest of it is precast concrete, and then the structure will be done. There's a lot of equipment to go inside still. The 36-inch gravity main sewer has been installed, with the exception of some work that has to be done once the new lift station is commissioned, ready to accept flow. That's about it on that project. The force main, bid package 2, the schedule has been pushed a few times. The contractor's foreman actually suffered a lost time incident, and while we want to be sensitive to that, they understand that we want to move the project forward. So we've been in contact with Boomerang to get those steps going. They have ordered some materials, and that was the balance on the that was approved earlier in the meeting. Those are staged on site or at the wastewater treatment facility, and those that are not on site are insured.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the step 3 project?
So, great, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Administrator report?
I apologize, it's a little lengthy, but it's not comprehensive. A few weeks ago, I did my first KMCD radio spotlight, and my predecessor also did that, giving the public updates on what the city is doing, what they have been doing, what we're going to do. So they'll be talking with me about this council meeting and what was happening and what we've decided, or what you've decided, I should say. But I feel like this is a very important piece of what I should be doing, is communicating with the public and opening that door and making sure that the citizens are, every avenue that we can is up to speed on what we're doing on a daily basis. And I think we'll just continue, hopefully, that it works out for us, and I'll get feedback in the future. I've been discussing recently with Alliant Energy, I think I made you all aware that Alliant is wanting to put a solar array out at the airport. We have 163 acres after me digging and finding out and asking questions, that we bring in roughly about $66,000 a year in lease payments. Aligned only is asking for 10 acres. It may be less than that to do a trial. You know, they'll do, I think the total is 6 acres of solar panels, and then see how that goes and if they want more. But they will be presenting us with a lease agreement and a plan, but that project will not be until 2025. But we have to give the leasees a year in advance so that they're not buying anhydrous and fertilizing and seed, those sorts of things. So we've got some planning time, but doing the calculations, we'll end up modifying their lease by roughly about $4,000 a year, and we'll go from there. And I'm not real sure whether we'll, after that, the lease for farming is up in 2025, so I don't know whether we'll be rebidding that out or whether we'll be, you know, going with the same. I don't, if there's an option to renew, I don't believe I saw that, but we'll be talking about that. So I'll be bringing that as soon as they give it to me, but I was kind of had this urgency that I need this plan so that we can contact the farmer and everything is fine, so we can relax a little bit, but we're working on it. I've been going over the employee policy manual, and I noticed that there are a few asked to take to the personnel committee, and one that I had noticed is holidays, and as I was going through that, I was kind of set back when I had read through that there were 2 holidays in particular that, after speaking with staff, that yearly we have to ask for the families to go home on Christmas Eve, but the most municipalities and and it is a national holiday, that I would recommend that we, instead of going through that ceremonial ask every year, that we just go back and look at the policy and revise some of the paid leave holidays that we have. I have 2 listed, but there's actually 3 that I would like to be, you know, considered. And one is Christmas Eve, that instead of asking, that it just is. And then if Christmas Eve falls on a Saturday, then we make that Friday so that our employees can spend more time with their family. And if they travel, they may have family elsewhere, or their family's coming in and they've got to buy groceries and those sorts of holiday planning events. The other one is Juneteenth, that is also a national holiday, that is a holiday that should be considered, just like Veterans Day. And we can go into the details if we're not up to speed, but the third holiday is New Year's Eve, is another one that people like to travel and spend time with their families and getting ready for the festivities. And so I would like to have that recommended to go to the personnel committee and consider those and make recommendations of whether we should move forward with those or not. The next thing that we have been discussing that I promised that I would go through is our Code of Business Conduct for consideration. I've actually got the draft up on my computer, been working on it for a week or so, but to expand all of the personal interactions and businesses with the city and how those are performed, and making sure that all of those things are declared, but that the Code of Business Conduct gives us transparency with our employees, but also helps us with an audit exception with interactions. With us being in a small community, we often have limited resources, and we have employees that have personal businesses on the side, and we may actually have to use those, and it's okay that we do that, but we have to declare those. And so the Code of Business Conduct will define the procedures for all of those things, and I'll be working through that and then presenting that for consideration as well. So that's a very lengthy process. So far, it's 8 pages. So it wasn't nearly that long in the handbook, but I'll be bringing that to you. So that's a big portion of my work week. Been working on that. School starts, I actually said this week, but I think it starts next week. Is that correct, or is it this week? It is.
Today.
It did today. Okay, so traffic patterns will be changing. People are rushing their kids to school, coming up with a new, parenting drop off and pick up. And so as school buses come and parents are dropping children off for school and kids are driving their way to high school to the parking lot, let's be mindful that things have changed drastically from the summer traffic pattern to the school year traffic pattern. So there'll be times during the day that it will be a little bit more busy. I had the opportunity to meet with State Representative Dr. Miller Meeks, and we toured the child care facility. That was the first time I was there. I've been by it a million times, but they discussed, how that came to be, the economic impact, the partnerships that were involved, the stress that they went through, but the simple fact that she recognized that Fairfield is a benchmark for other cities and how that came to fruition, and we need more of that for other aspects of economic development, but it fulfilled a child care need. And I had a very long conversation with not only her, but the actual staff and the people that were involved, and I was extremely impressed. It's only been open since January, and they're at 135 children, and it has a capacity at 185 within just these few short months. But they actually had planned for expansion, and I'm really glad that they did, because hopefully as we grow, then we'll be able to expand that facility. And then lastly, I want to encourage everyone that needs to speak with me that always call City Hall or send me an email, and I've entered that email in here at cityadmin@fairfieldiowa.gov. If you would like to speak with me and need to set up some time, please send me a calendar invite, because it fills up quickly and I have to shuffle things around, and somebody will say, hey, we've got a meeting today, and I had forgotten about it, and I want to be there. I want to give people the time that they need for whatever they want to talk about. And I just want to be sure that I reiterate that publicly, that if you need to speak with me, send me an email, send me a calendar invite, or call me, or make an appointment with somebody at City Hall, and we'll get you. They all have access to my calendars, but it can be very busy. But I also want to give people the time they need to complain or to give me some advice, or just ask for a status update of what we're doing, and that happens frequently. But I want to make sure that it's there and open. So that's all I have to present today.
So do you want both of these personnel items? Do you plan on presenting them at the same time, or?
I do not.
Okay.
The holidays, since they're getting ready to hit us, the holidays, yes, but the code of business conduct, I'm working on as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's, council, if you would make a motion to move to review the holidays at the personnel committee. Let's move that forward.
I'll move that to personnel.
Moved by Flournoy.
I'll second.
Second by Ham. Any questions? All those in favor, well, should we call the roll? Let's just, we don't need to. Okay, yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, so we will move that to personnel for review.
Do we want to go ahead and move the other one to personnel when it's ready? I mean, go ahead and move it to personnel. They can decide when they meet, since we're here.
It's up to you guys. That's one reason I asked him how soon he was gonna be ready, if he planned on doing it
might be
right
another
together.
week.
So,
As long as it's
But-
not 6 months.
No, it will not be 6
Yeah.
months. It'll
okay,
be shortly.
sure.
All right, what is it? I'll move that we.
Code of business
The code of
conduct.
business conduct go before personnel as well, when it's ready.
Second.
Okay. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, great. And then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Haley got it in
Second.
just under Esty.
Second.
Yeah, right. You're gonna have to try harder, Elizabeth. And second by Esty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.